Once upon a time, there was a fabric. It was beautiful, it was delicate, it was entirely the wrong choice for what I bought it for, and yet somehow it followed me home. 5 whole yards of it. I didn't want it didn't want me, but sewing has a way of turning enemies into accomplices, and this is the story of how we made peace and a tea gown. I met this fabric in a moment of Selkie dupe delusion. I pictured clouds of ruffles and dreamy princess drama. But as it rolled across the cutting table, I saw the truth. This was not the fabric that I thought it was. This fabric had other plans. And yet, I said nothing. I'm too polite to abandon it. I let them cut it, yard after yard, as my dreams crumbled quietly into the floor. I brought it home, I put it on a shelf, and for months we avoided looking at it until one day, inspiration struck. Tea gowns, the Edwardian answer to comfort, luxury, and a hint of scandal, you could wear them without corsets, which was practically an act of rebellion. They floated through parlors and gardens, catching the light and the occasional raised eyebrow. Mine would take the spirit of a tea gown and see if I could charm this wispy fabric into behaving as I'd like, at least long enough to finish the dress. I began with a pattern from my stash, an old draft from a previous project, but really I only wanted the yoke. The rest I would invent. The yoke would tell me where the shirring belonged, and a random sleeve pattern would handle the rest. Alright, so I'm getting ready to cut the fabric, but I thought I should actually show it to you before I do that. This is my fabric right here. It's very sheer, as you can tell. The top portion of the fabric you can see is already sheared, so it's very stretchy. That's what I think I'm going to use to make the... I literally just looked up what it's called and now I can't remember what it's called, so I will put it right there. Anyway, so this will be the top portion of the dress above the bust, and that way I'll still have some like gathering here. My main issue is the skirt portion of the fabric. And that is this part right here. You can see there's zigzaggy ruffles. I keep going back and forth between whether I like them or I hate them. Because here's the thing. This fabric is so sheer that if I remove the ruffles, you practically can't see the pattern of the fabric. So like right there is the fabric. So it's there, but it's not at the same time. So like a lot of what you can see from far away is the ruffles. However, I don't think that the zigzagging ruffles looks very high-end. I think I would have liked it a lot better if it wasn't a zigzag. But alas, it is a zigzag. So I'm going back and forth between whether or not I want to keep the zigzag ruffles or if I want to remove them. And if I remove them, how am I going to do that? I think it'll be an easy process of just unpicking all of the zigzag ruffles, but I'll be unpicking all of the zigzag ruffles. So the one nice thing about doing that though is that I would be able to use the ruffles for something else, either in this project or in an entirely other project. But for now, let's first check and see if I can even use the pattern that I plan on using. Oh, it's a yoke! I found a pattern piece! Well, I have an issue. I have the back piece of the yoke pattern, which I don't even plan on using because I plan on making it more V-neck shape. So I have the back piece of the yoke for this pattern, but not the front piece. I used it on another pattern and apparently never put it back. So now I have no idea where the front piece is. I do have the original pattern that I made. Wait, Oh, this is just the sleeve. Okay, well, I'm gonna have to go looking for the original pattern because this is just a sleeve. I thought it was the actual pattern. So I do have the original Parisian tailor block that I based the Gibson shirt on, but I'm not sure where it is. So I'm gonna have to go search through my stuff and see if I can either find the original Parisian tailor block or the yoke that it was supposed to be in this pattern in the first place. So I found it. It just accidentally got dropped on the floor. So now I get to figure out how the heck to cut out this fabric. So the way you're supposed to cut it out, so you'll cut a straight line down through the shirring and then you'll tear the rest of it, which works when you don't have random ruffles throughout the fabric. So you can see here the people at Joann's, when they were cutting it for me, because I got this fabric as a last ditch thing before it went out of business, they were like struggling to get it to cut. So there's this whole like bumpy thing here, and then it gets shorter down here. So I'm going to figure out how the heck to cut this fabric. The other thing I just realized is that this yoke only goes to about here, which means there still needs to be some sort of connection down at the bottom to finish off the armhole. So these are my pieces for the Gibson girl shirt that I'm using as a reference for this tea gown-ish type robe thing that I'm making. And I was planning on using this yoke piece and this yoke piece and pretty much just cutting it out based on the yoke piece, and then whatever was left of the fabric is just going to gather because this is shirred, and so this is going to be much bigger. But it occurred to me just a moment ago, as I said, that if I do that, I will not have any fabric to take into account the rest of the armhole, because these pieces make up the bottom of the arm. So the question is, how do I want to deal with the bottom of the fabric? I don't really want the shirring to go down that far on the arm side. Like for the front, I plan on having it actually go down a lot farther than in the back. I want it to be kind of an angled look for that back. For the front, I don't want it to be going down any further, nor do I want it really to go down any further on the back, around the arm. So my options are to cut it out such that there is shirring around the armhole, but only in the seam allowance. Or to cut it out in such a way that the shirring will end here, but then I also have some extra fabric to create that armhole. The problem with the shirring in the armhole is that I'm not sure that I can reliably have this be curved upward and then down again so that I have shirring only in the armhole. But at the same time, if I don't do the shirring, my fear is that I will cut out the fabric as though the armhole is there, but because of the shirring being up here, the fabric will be kind of wrinkled, and then I won't know exactly how big my armhole is, so my armhole might get a lot bigger. Oh, also, while I have this out and available so that we can see it, and my camera's about to die, so I want to say this real fast. For the rest of the pattern, this is cut on the fold for the pattern, but I didn't put any seam allowances on this pattern at all. So I'm not going to cut this on the fold because I'm thinking about putting in a gore at the back so that the back of the skirt is a little bit bigger. So this one will be a back seam, and then of course the closure is going to be in the front. This piece is the only one that has currently a seam allowance, and it's only at the button placard because I wasn't sure how big to make the button placard and I wasn't going to want to figure that out every single time. So it has seam allowance on the button placard but nowhere else. I don't know that I'm going to have a button placard on the front of the fabric, mainly because I don't know how I want to do the closure at the front. I don't even know if I want a closure at the front. Because the fabric is stretchy, I might just let it be a pull over the head kind of thing. Or I might put a button at the back. I don't think so though, because that would make no sense since this is going to be open in the front. So never mind. Don't disregard that. So I'm not sure how I want to do the closure in the front, but so I'm gonna add the seam allowance that's on this guy just until I figure it out. And then I'll have to add seam allowances on here and of course around the other edges of this one as well. And I probably won't cut out the neck hole because I'm kind of thinking about having a neck ruff, and if the neck ruff is created by just using what's left over of the shirred fabric that's already there and just kind of gathering it a little bit more, then that would make my life so much easier. So that's what I'll do. Also, just while we're in the kind of planning, figuring it out phase, what I'm thinking about doing is trying to make the shirred line, the bottom of the shirred line, follow the curve of my pattern. So you can see here it's got a curve to it, which I'm trying to get to sit almost about even with the pattern. If it's not perfect, it's not perfect. It doesn't really matter anyway because it's all gonna be wherever it's gonna be. But it's just better to have it at least close. But the thing is, if I curve it like this, I'm of course putting wrinkles up at the top, which is fine for like the collar, because again, I was thinking about doing a ruffled neck at the collar and just kind of gathering in it a little bit more. But it does make a difference at the shoulder line. The shoulder line should really be a straight line with no wrinkles throughout. So I'm probably going to wind up, while I'm cutting it out, which is going to be really awkward, stretching the fabric a bit so that it will sit along the curve and still stay straight at the bottom or the top. But of course, the more I pull at it for this part, the less gathers I'll have at the actual skirt portion of it. So I'm still figuring things out. Also, I should say that there's no mock-ups for this project because I don't have any other shirred fabric. This is all I got. I'm not going to make myself pre-shirred fabric just so I can mock up this dress. Especially because I'm trying to do it fast and furious anyway. I really wanted to have the fabric cut out tonight, but since it's looking like the pattern's going to need some adjusting, that's not happening. So I, for sure, don't have enough time to make fabric to make a mock-up to test out this pattern. I'm just gonna do whatever's in my brain and hope it works. That's what designing is anyway, right? I began with a pattern from my stash, an old draft from a previous project, but really I only wanted the yoke. The rest I would invent. The yoke would tell me where the shirring belonged, and a random sleeve pattern would handle the rest. It didn't have to be perfect. Perfection was never the goal here. Stash busting, on the other hand, that's a bit of another story. So I had to take another break because apparently my camera had too much stuff on it, which put me back another like half an hour. So I am currently at noon and I've hardly got anything done. Hopefully the rest of the day will go by. I won't have too many other things get in the way. Although I might have to go out because I don't know if I have thread that I can use for this project. But I've currently cut out 2 pieces for the front based on the front yoke, 2 pieces for the back based on the back yoke, plus a little extra because I didn't want it to be a straight line in the back. I also cut out a gore because I'd like for the back to have a little bit of more something going on, so the back has a little bit extra. And then I have also cut out 2 pieces for the sleeve. The sleeve is going to be hopefully a bishop sleeve, but almost all of this pattern was based on figuring out where the pattern is at the shirred portion. So like this part's gonna be, the shirred portion is the only thing that I really lined the pattern up with. And then for the rest of it, I just kind of guessed about where exactly I wanted my seam lines to be. So it's a little bit crazy, but hopefully it doesn't look too bad. The next steps is to, I do not want the ruffles on the sleeves. I know that for sure. I haven't quite decided on the skirt. So what I'm going to do next is take the ruffles off of the sleeves and see how it looks. Probably maybe sew the sleeves together, see how it looks before moving on to the main body of the dress, which is totally different. I usually do the sleeves last because I hate them. But I think my best bet this time around will be to do the sleeves first and then move on to the body once I have decided whether or not I will keep the ruffles on the skirt. So now it's time for me to go do a lot of picking. Once the pieces were cut, I performed the first act to beautify the fabric, removing that ugly frill. I didn't throw them away, of course. I am not a monster. Every scrap of this fabric will hold a potential, and I might need this cooperation for later. Alright, one down. And surprisingly, the flowers are pretty visible. Huh, I didn't think so. I actually think they're more visible now that the ruffles aren't there, because they aren't blocking them. But anyway, one sleeve down. Now I have to do the other one. I think it took me an hour to get the ruffles off of the sleeves. I wish I could find my seam ripper because it would probably be faster if I could use my seam ripper, but I cannot. So I'm using these scissors, which are smaller but still not as good as I would like. But now I just have one more to go and then I can start sewing. Alright, so I have sewn both sleeves with my French seam. I currently have a pin in just to show which one's the front, if you can even see it. I don't believe that you can. I really think that I prefer the fabric without the ruffles. Once I got the ruffles off, I saw how visible the flowers were, and I just think it's better in the long run. I went back and forth between hating the ruffles and liking the ruffles and hating the ruffles, but I like this. I like this without the ruffles. So I'd rather not take the risk of hating it at the end because of the ruffles. Also, I was thinking about it, and I did not try to pattern match. So the ruffles, the zigzags will be in totally different places at all the seams, and it'll just kind of look awkward. So I just think it's better in the long run to take off the ruffles, which is unfortunate because that's going to be a pain in the butt, but whatever is necessary is necessary. I'm just going to add it to my pile of random strips of fabric over there. Eventually I'll find a use for them, I'm sure. With the edges cleared, it was time to sew the body of the gown. Seam by seam, the panels came together, including a tall gore at the back, because I'm still going to get that princess drama. The fabric shifted, stretched, and occasionally sulked under the needle, but slowly the tea gown began to take shape. Okay, so I have the main body finished. Well, not finished. I have it sewn together. And of course it's really hard to see because it is sheer, so. I have not finished the front. The collar looks a little weird right now because it needs to be gathered into an actual collar. I haven't finished the front, that still needs doing, and I haven't hemmed the bottom or really evened out the hem because the seams were not the same length, so I need to even out the hem. And I still have to attach the sleeves. However, I have a couple of considerations I want to figure out first. So I'm trying to decide if I want to just attach the sleeve as is. I mean, I still have to put the cuffs on the sleeve as well, but attach the sleeve as is, just straight to the shoulder, with the assumption that I'll probably wear something, some bolero or whatever on top of this, or do I want to add a ruffle? So my plan is to add a ruffle to the hem, and also for the cuffs I'm gonna use the ruffled edge of the shirred fabric to do the cuff and the collar. So I'm trying to decide if I also want to add ruffles for the sleeves, or if that's too much, or if that's gonna be like too childish, or what. So I'm still kind of trying to decide how I want to deal with it. So far, I'm mostly happy with it. I would have liked a little bit more gathering of the lower skirt, but that's based on how much fabric I have. I did not have enough. I could have probably added some gores into the side seam as well as the back seam, but I think that just the back seam is enough, and honestly I don't think I have enough fabric or really the desire to take more ruffles off of fabric to be able to do a side seam gore as well. So it would have been pretty, but I'm not upset that I don't have it. So I think what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna ruffle some fabric. The leftover ruffles, I'm probably just going to re-ruffle them so I can attach them to the hem, and then possibly think about attaching them also to the armhole so that I can decide whether or not I want there to be a ruffle there. The other thing I still need to figure out is the front. Right now the intention is to have this part closed entirely and then have the rest of the skirt just open and you can see underneath it. However, two things need to happen for that. One, I need to finish the front because right now it just looks kind of eh. So I had thought of adding some gold lace down the front, but I don't know if the gold lace will match. So I'm kind of, I might go to Michael's a little bit later and just see if I can't find some nice lace that'll look good just to finish the front. And then the other thing I need to do is figure out how I want to close the top. More than likely it'll be some sort of button situation, but I did not add a button placard because I had no intention of having an overlapping button. That would look weird. So I wanted to have some sort of separate button. So I'll probably do like some sort of bobble button and then do that kind of thread chain stitch to make a loop so I can do a bobble and loop button situation. The other thought is, of course, can I just maybe sew the front together and then just take it off? Which seems to be possible, but also is probably a pain in the butt because it's already a bit tight around my arms. I'm thinking about it. So I'm still trying to decide. Yeah. So. Sure enough, the frills are turned, tamed into a hem at the bottom of the skirt, and a dainty flourish at the shoulder. A little frill goes a long way. Alright, so I have to take a break because it's Father's Day and I need to go to see my dad. But I just wanted to try it on with all the current stuff and give another update about how far I am. A couple things I did since last I said. I have put one sleeve on. I did decide to add in the little ruffles, and I also put the ruffles on the bottom. I think I would have preferred a bigger ruffle, but that would require me to have a lot of fabric that I have to cut into a wider strip of fabric, and I just don't really want to spend the time to do that. So it's okay. It's not exactly what I want, but it is pretty and I do like it. The hem is done. The sleeve, one of them is on. It still needs a cuff. The other one still needs to be added on. And then the other thing I did close the front of my tea gown. I only did the first seam for the French hem because I wanted to try it on, see if I could even put it on before I finished it off, because once I cut into it, there's no going back. I do think it'll work. It was a little bit difficult to get over my head, but it wasn't the end of the world. It's just gonna be like a stretchy fabric to get over the head. It is what it is. I did realize that since I have a French hem in the front now, it's gonna kind of look weird to have a seam right in the middle of my chest. So I'm thinking I might do some faux buttons just right there, so they kind of disguise that seam, make it look like it's closing at a button, but it's really not. And I do really like the way it sits. It's almost cape-like, which is not what I was expecting, but it's also not bad. It's again currently not fitting at the neckline because I have to gather it into a collar, which was always the plan. I think that this project probably would have been better with a more opaque tulle fabric. Like, the fact that you can see through it is great, but as you can see on camera, it's hardly visible. So it is kind of, it's cute. I might do it again in the future, but like with a darker fabric, something that will actually be visible, something like this, where you can see color, but you can still see through it. So I think that would be a better option for this kind of project, but I am really happy with it, and I'm gonna keep going as soon as I get back from seeing my father. Okay, so it just now occurred to me that it might be easier to see the piece on a hanger, because that way you don't have to look through whatever clothes I'm wearing. So I did not work on it at all when I came back from Father's Day. I wound up coming back way late, and then this morning I had overtime, so I had to work a long time today, but I was able to get some work done on the tea gown. So I have both sleeves now done. I just finished the sleeves. I also finished the French hem of the front portion. Unfortunately, I came to a realization afterwards that I probably should have thought of, which is that in order to attach the collar, I'm going to have to stitch the neckline, which means that I'm probably going to close off the neckline. I'm hoping that maybe if I use a zigzag stitch, I might be able to keep the stretchiness of the neckline, because that's where I need it most. But that's gonna be an experiment when I get to it. I also did a rolled hem on one side. I'm sure you cannot see it from there. The one thing I don't like about it is that the foot that I used actually stretched out the fabric a bit, so it is a bit like wrinkly, but I don't think it's the end of the world. I don't hate it. It's just not as kind of clean as I would like it to be. Although the actual rolled hem is a lot more clean than I normally get it. So that's a good thing. The one thing I don't like about it is that you can clearly see the stitching of the rolled hem. And also I was not able to roll hem the bottom and the part right underneath the yoke, simply because my foot would not do it. But that's an easy enough, just kind of stitch it down by hand in those couple of spots. But what I'm actually thinking about doing, just to add a little bit of interest maybe, is to use this gold, I'll have to show it to you, this kind of gold lace. It's very thin, not really noticeable. I was kind of concerned that if I used a lace like I had originally intended, let's see, do I have any lace here that I could show? So this is just a random lace that I have. If I were to put it on the front of the bodice, it would just kind of stick out and be very noticeable. And this whole tea gown is practically see-through. You can hardly see it when it's on, which makes it very hard to film. And I don't really want something that's going to stick out like that. So I'm thinking if I stitch this kind of gold material around on the front seam, and then maybe around a couple of the other stitch lines, like I'm considering maybe putting it around the neck and making a bow at the neck, and maybe a bow right where it closes at the tea gown, and possibly around the cuffs as well. Just kind of putting it around the bodice so it's not just in the front hem. I think that it will be pretty, but if I do that, I might want to go ahead and order some more if I even can, because I think that I got this at Michael's, but if I got it at Joann's, we all know what the problem is there. I only did the one hem for now because my intention is to bring this to work tomorrow, because even though I was doing overtime, I have some downtime where I can work on it at work with hand sewing. So I think I'm going to bring it to work tomorrow with my gold ribbon and tack the gold ribbon on top of the front seam just to see how it looks, just to see if I like it. The sleeves were sewn into long, airy tubes, then gathered into cuffs made from the fabric itself, shirred and hemmed already so I don't have to do it. A zigzag stitch holds the cuffs in place, allowing them to stretch with ease around my hands. I use the same trick for the collar, extending the shirring up the neckline in soft gathers. It's a little bit late at night. I'm getting ready to go to bed. I just have to roll hem this one side so that I can work on the stitching tomorrow, the hand stitching tomorrow at work. But I wanted to try on the tea gown after finishing the cuffs and the collar. So currently this is what it looks like. I'm really happy with the cuffs. I love that it's making a great balloon effect. So you can see the balloon effect. I'm loving that. The one thing, I think I might have mentioned it already, I wish that I hadn't left shirring at the shoulder. I wish that that was just a balloon shoulder as well, but that's not the end of the world. The collar, I'm not in love with the collar, but I like it enough not to change it. So the problem with the collars, I would have liked probably a little bit more of a ruffly kind of collar so that it stuck out more, but that was gonna be a pain in the butt to try to do. And then the other thing is if you remember at the beginning, I had lined the pattern up so that the base of the shirring would go around the pattern, and then I had intended on gathering the excess into the collar. I did do that. It's still kind of wonky, like it wants to be right up against the neck and it kind of is buckling. Not enough to be noticeable. It's not the end of the world that it's doing it. It's just not what I had wanted. And because of that, this part's sitting a little higher. I would have liked it to be a little bit lower, so I would have liked it to be there, but it keeps sticking up. And then the other thing, which is not something that I can really fix, is that this collar is actually really uncomfortable just because the fabric is uncomfortable. It's very itchy, and that's just something I'm gonna have to deal with this dress. Like, the cuffs are itchy, the neck is itchy, it's all itchy. But again, it's just the fabric. There's nothing I can do about it. So it really is bedtime right now, but I want to be able to work on the dress at work tomorrow. So the plan now is tonight I'm going to roll this hem And then tomorrow I'm going to hand stitch the gold ribbon in, which I did not show you what that looks like. So this is the gold ribbon. It's very, very hard to see. It's supposed to be very dainty. It's causing this kind of ruffly look around the front of the dress. I really don't know if you can see it at all, but I want to sew that on tomorrow at work, in my free time, of course. And then I also want to try to add my buttons tomorrow, and then that will be a completed project. Oh, and I should say also, luckily the neckline kept its stretch, as did the cuffs with the zigzagging stitch, so I can still take it off over the head. Although apparently that was not a good way to do it. I can't get it off now. It's stuck on my hair. But yeah, so I can still get it off over the head, which is good. So now I just have to roll the hem, and then it'll be bedtime. I'm getting ready to get started on another day of working on the project because I just got home from work. But before I got into it, I wanted to tell you a funny story. Or not really a funny story, more like a, oh my gosh, I can't believe this happened. I finished putting on the gold trim at work, so since I did it at work I did not film it at all, but it is just a simple back stitch, and you still can't see it. Just a simple back stitch with some gold thread that I used to tack it down. However, while I was working on the first side, I was freaking out because I was pretty sure that I was not going to have enough ribbon for the second side. So I finished the first side and I measured the amount of ribbon that I had left against the first side, and I had about that much left that I was going to have left over after sewing it to the other side. I tried to go get more, but Michael's didn't have it, so I couldn't get more. So at that point, I was like, oh, I don't know, should I just continue on or should I take off the one I already did? And overall, I decided that it was my best bet to just continue on. So I did the other side. And I will tell you now, I did not have to cut it at the end. So that is the very end of the ribbon. I literally had the perfect amount of ribbon left. So I went to Michael's the first day to try to find any sort of lace to put onto the edge. Came home, found this ribbon, and was like, oh, that's perfect. And then on the second day I went to Michael's because I was trying to find more of this ribbon. Couldn't find it, but it wound up being that I had the perfect amount, so okay, whatever. And then today I was looking at what I had for the buttons, and I have these beautiful little containers, but they're actually beads that are supposed to go onto like a necklace, I think. They're bead caps. So they look like flowers, but in reality they're supposed to go on top of the beads. But I thought they looked really nice, and I really wanted to use them to do my little flowers buttons on the front of my dress. Which means I needed some beads to actually attach these to. So I went back to Michael's and I got these red beads because I'm hoping. They didn't really have any like super close matches to my flowers because my flowers are kind of like a dark pinkish color, but I'm hoping that the red won't look too weird against it because it was either red or like a light pink, and I didn't like the idea of a light pink. So now what I'm going to do is attach the beads. Once the buttons are done, it's practically done. So let's get to work. But a tea gown without ornament is like tea without sugar. Fine, but what's the delight? I searched for buttons, but none were worthy. So I made my own. Flower beads kissed with red, sewn in place, as if they'd always been there. she was, light as a sigh, ready to drift through imaginary gardens and polite scandals. In the breeze she comes alive, the fabric I once disliked now whispering secrets in the wind. I adore her, mostly. If I could change things, I'd give her puff sleeves like this, instead of shirred shoulders. Find buttons with the right sort of mischief that don't stick out quite as much, and decide once and for all whether she wants more rolled or none at all. But she has forgiven me my doubts, and I hers, and now she waits in my wardrobe, dreaming of the day she'll have cake. And there you have it. I did try a new style of video this time around, which was a more storytelling kind of vibe. I hope you enjoyed it. If you prefer the old way, please let me know in the comments. Or if you have anything else that you'd like to mention to me, please let me know down below. And if you'd like to support my channel, please like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you next time. Bye! Rude? I just got attacked, which seems to be possible.